Today's couples are enduring a lot of hardships and challenges. And today we're going to talk about two of the top causes for people to split up and separate. Hi, I'm Dr. Rachael Coleman, and today joining me are the Templetons, Willie and Donna Templeton. Thank you for coming out and sharing with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So, something catastrophic happened in your marriage, but I'm going to let you kind of fill us in. You can take us back as far as you like. And what happened, and how did you land on your feet, if you will?
Hey. You gonna let me start? You gonna start?
You go ahead and start.
Okay. Well, it's been years. First of all, we were approaching our 25th year in marriage. And that's a huge milestone in marriage, to reach 25 years to begin with. To reach 5 years is a huge milestone.
2 years, yes.
2 years. But we were approaching 25 years. And it was interesting that year. I was reading a book called The Bait of Satan. And from the top of the year, I was journaling, I was praying. And then all of a sudden, and if anybody doesn't know what that book addresses, it addresses forgiveness and not taking up offense. And approaching probably towards the end or middle of the year is when, or maybe even earlier than that, is when we would suffer one of the biggest trials of our marriage, being infidelity.
Wow.
And so that was something I didn't see coming. Something that was very difficult for him and I from both sides to deal with, from the side of forgiveness and from the side forgiving our partner and from the side of forgiving ourselves. And so it was a difficult time. But one thing that I looked at is God is in everything. He prepares you for everything. And so as I was reading that book about forgiveness, little did I know I was going to actually have to apply everything I had been reading about in that book and praying about.
So when you say that and you mention, this situation, and of course we're talking, about infidelity, are we talking about one or both of you, or are we talking about emotional infidelity or physical infidelity, sexual infidelity? Can you?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was physical. It was emotional. I think it was all of that, and it was all on me. It was not anything that not that she did anything like that. That was on one side of the fence, so to speak. It was one of those situations. I'm one who I've learned, and it's one thing that I try to do is take responsibility for my own actions.
That's good.
Don't try to find reasons and this happened because, or that happened because of that. And I could do that and find justification for anything that I was doing at that particular time. But for me, it was quite honestly a lack of respect for my wife, a lack of respect for our home, for our family. It was a lack of respect for our marriage. And it was all about me being selfish, doing what I wanted to do.
But did you recognize that at the time? Or
No.
was this kind of looking back?
Oh, absolutely not. It was, like I said, at the time, it was all about what I felt I was feeling, what I felt I wasn't getting, those type of things. And so, and when you're in the midst of that, obviously, nothing that makes sense makes sense. But, when you have the opportunity now, some years later, almost 15 years later, and you can go back and you start to examine, what was my mentality? What was, why did I do what I did? Why did I put somebody else, let alone what I did to my wife, why did I do that to someone else who didn't deserve that as well?
So, did you mess up, or what did she find out, or how did the secret come out, if you will?
I was seen somewhere.
Oh.
And they did like the Bible said do. There was another Christian who saw me out somewhere, and they called me on the phone, said, "Hey, can we meet?" Sure. And we met for coffee, and they put it out there on the table. I'm caught. Yes. Why did y'all meet? And that's when I had to tell her everything.
So there was the confession on his part to me, and that's where, all of a sudden it was like broken. You feel brokenness.
So
Trust is actually broken. You're hurt. You go through all kinds of emotions. And because then your mind starts thinking about, how did we get here? You think about, why did we get here? What happened? But the immediate reaction, the emotion is hurt and then just broken trust.
So were you totally blindsided, or did you have a little suspicion?
No, I was blindsided. I was totally blindsided. And one of the things also, too, is in that broken trust, it's almost like you feel like, do I even know this individual? Because now this is not the individual that I stood at the altar with. This is not the same person. Something has taken place that has changed him. And so you really go through this total separation. I almost think about, when Adam was caught in the Garden of Eden, and there was that total separation now from God. That's what it was feeling like between husband and wife, who we were one. And now all of a sudden, I feel like I'm being ripped apart.
So what did you do? Did you pack his bags, put him out? Did you leave the home, go stay in a hotel that night, break some dishes, set the clothes on fire?
All those kinds of things you see in the movie. But all those kinds of things that you see in the movies, they over-exaggerate some things. And one of the things that when thinking back on it, I say, wow, you just don't know what is in you from a spiritual level until you're there. Because I've heard people say, oh, well, if my husband cheated on me, this is what I'm going to do, or I'm going to do that, or, this will be over. You don't even know what you would do until you're actually there.
Right.
And you don't even realize the strength that is in you until you're actually faced with that trial or a trial that is, just breaking.
So from the outside, you all look like the perfect couple. But on the inside, there's some turmoil and at some point, some decisions to make it work.
Yes.
So what steps did you take to make it work?
Yeah. And you asked, did I put him out and all of that kind of thing? No. As a matter of fact, I think he was saying, I'm going to look for an apartment. And I said, for what?
Yeah.
What is that going to do? Because I'm not thinking this is over. And I never thought about putting him out. But now, did he have to go into another bedroom to sleep? Absolutely.
Okay.
Because all of a sudden, it's like, I just don't even want to look at you right now. And I don't want you to look at me in that way. And so that's where I think about in our premarital coaching, we actually utilize this book called The Four Loves. And it talks about not just eros, not just the romantic love. So the romantic love now is broken. But we still had the family love, we still had that friendship and the agape love. And so all of that is still working. It's just right now, I don't feel any romantic tie to you because of that broken trust. And so he slept in another room, and I don't even know how long that went on,
So
really.
before we go there, big question for you:
Mm-hmm.
did the relationship end after you told her,
Yes.
or so it's not something that continued?
No, that was a done deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Good.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So the path forward. How do you survive something like that? Go from, hearing this news, and then you're devastated.
Yes.
And of course, now you're in another room. Did you want to leave?
When everything came out, that's what I just figured was the next step. I literally started looking for an apartment, and I told her that. I says I'm going to look for an apartment, and she says, an apartment for what? And it was then when, for me, it kind of clicked that I'm not going to leave. I'm not being put out. But I knew that it was going to be a lot of work to be done. Sleeping in another room, my son was at home at the time. Him and his family were living with us at that time, and he wanted to know why mom was crying. And I think one of the things that happened for us was we kept it between us. We didn't involve, as a matter of fact, when he approached me as the son of his mother, and he was not happy, And it was at that moment I became dad and says, don't worry about it. This is between your mother and I. And we kept them out of it completely. And I think that was an important piece as well, for us to keep people out of it so that we could heal. So I could heal her by my actions, and she could heal me by her actions.
So now that's easier said than done, because a lot of times when something devastating potentially happens to you, you need support. So a lot of times, people do seek out, a close friend that they can just let the steam off, and find some emotional support. So that was not something that was difficult for the two of you to keep the dirty laundry inside. Or
The person, for me, he's gone on to be with the Lord now. He passed away a couple years ago. But he was my best friend, male friend. This is my best friend. He was my best friend, male, who I could tell anything. I could say anything, and there would be no judgment. He was what I call a real friend. There was no judgment, and he ministered to me, allowed me to say the things that I needed to say. But he was a friend who said the things that needed to be said to me. Right?
He didn't sugarcoat it. Huh?
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. He was a friend. He didn't try, well, she probably should have, or nothing like, no. Was because I couldn't I couldn't really have a conversation that needed to take place until I could reconcile what was going on in me.
And so, what about
And
you?
the healing was so important. We both had accountability partners. It's interesting, I had an accountability partner who I would call, and she, unfortunately, had gone through the same thing. And, but in her situation, it didn't work out because a child was born out of that. So it was interesting that she could yet minister to me, even though she was experiencing the same thing. And so she was one who I talked to. Also talked to our spiritual leaders. And but the most support that I felt we got were from those accountability partners that we had.
So what did that look like as far as having accountability partners? Was there a weekly check-in, a daily check-in, and just reach out when you need to, or how did that look?
One of the things that I said, I felt like I had gone through therapy already in advance of the whole situation, and just reading that book and journaling and praying every day. And, and I think I even still have those notes from when I was going through that and everything I wrote. And as I went back and read it, I said, wow, this is talking about forgiveness. It's talking about not taking up an offense, and everything that you need to do and the scripture base. So that foundation is what really supported me through this. It wasn't, and so I say it came directly from God, because there wasn't really a therapist or a counselor involved with either one of us. But just having that foundation in the Word of God and knowing that, yeah, you're going to go through difficulties in life, but how are you going to handle it? No matter what it is. And then the vow. We had talked early in our relationship, both of us come from divorced homes. And so one of the things we said, we would never, ever put our children through that.
Did you forgive him?
Absolutely did. Absolutely did. It was a process. And I think he was, and he'll say how over and over he was saying, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And he kept saying it over and over. And one time he finally got to the point of saying,
It was, it's one of those things that obviously when you love someone, right? And someone who might be even watching this show might say, well, he couldn't have loved her, because if he loved her, he would have never done what he did. Well, that's a discussion for another time. But I will just say that that's what kept me as well, even afterwards. And so when everything was out on the table, it was everyone, and I will say everyone knew. What I mean by everyone knew, everyone that counted. It wasn't everybody's business, but everybody that counted, they knew. There were people who were important to me in church who knew, and I felt like I let them down. I went to them personally. I apologize. There were people I worked with who found out and knew. I went to them personally because they looked at me in a certain way, and so I was apologizing to everybody. And then even when, like she says, she would tell you, I was over communicating. I'm getting ready to leave the house. I'm going to the grocery store. She already knows that. I get in the car and I'll call on the phone. Hey, I'm on my way to the grocery store. And okay, love you. Get off the phone, go in the store. I'm in the store now. Did you need me to pick anything else up? I would pick it up. I would get back in the car, head home. I'm on my way home. I was really over communicating because one of the things I really wanted to show her that I'm back. I'm back. And so
earn her trust back.
Yes. Yeah. And so I knew that had to come from her. It was nothing that I can make happen. And just one night, night we had a talk, and it was a really I think a good strong talk, and I got up and I was headed back to the bed, the other room, and I'm glad we can laugh about this now.
Right.
But we head back to I'm getting ready to head back to the room that I was sleeping in, and she says, hey, you don't have to leave. And I turned around, I got back in bed, and that's all I'm gonna say about that.
All right.
But
I think we understand.
but even after being invited back into our bed, I was still apologizing. And one night we were just laying there in bed, and we were both wide awake, just laying there. And I said, "Hey," she says, "Yeah." I says, "I'm done. I'm done apologizing." And her response to me was, "Good, because you've been forgiven."
That's awesome. Now, did you forgive yourself?
That's what that's what I wrestled with. Have I forgiven myself? Absolutely. I have. Did it take time? Yes, because at the end of the day, what I realized, what I did in my selfishness, what I did in my lack of integrity, what I did was I hurt the one person that I knew loved me no matter what. That's the struggle for somebody who is guilty of it, and if they can't let go of that hurt, because the hurt that I caused, that's what hurts me most.
Moving forward, you all not only, strengthened your relationship,
Yes.
did what you needed to do, went through forgiving yourselves and each other, but now you've birthed a coaching platform to help
Yes.
others. Tell me, how did that start, and what does that look like? And more.
What I started doing after all this took place, the month of November is our anniversary month. November 22nd, we'll be celebrating the 39th year of our marriage.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. And so I started doing some what I called marriage nuggets.
Okay.
And obviously it was after everything that took place, and I would just every day of the month, for the month of November, I would just put out a marriage nugget. And it would be something simple, like when I started was, if you want your grass to be green, water your own grass. Stuff like that, different things. And she had gotten on social media, and so she joined me. And we started doing it, and someone had called and asked us to, if we could do some coaching or talk to somebody, because they knew we had been through some stuff. Could you help out here? And we started talking, and we just started talking about it. And after we talked about it, we just came up with, well, we're better together.
Better together.
And
That's awesome.
it's better, the number 2, and together. And we decided that our pain became a platform. Wow. Our mess became a message. Our test became a testimony. And so now we're able to share, we share the story when we're necessary, but we also take practical life lessons. You hear the saying, well, everybody's marriage is not the same. You're absolutely correct. But there are principles in marriage that go across the board.
Yes.
That's good.
Yes. And when people, and it was a God move. It really was a God move.
Yes.
Because when people all of a sudden started approaching us saying, I have a daughter who's getting married, and she and her fiance need somebody to coach them. I think it was a connection through his job. So a lot of couples started just approaching us, and I'm like, God, what are you doing here? This is just amazing. And we knew only God could do it, because we didn't go on Facebook or any social media to say, oh, we're over here. If you need a marriage coach, we don't do that.
To you.
And we don't do that to this day. Right. People find us, are referred to us, and we sit down with them. And if they have a church home, we always recommend talk to your pastor first.
That's right.
But because we are independent ministry, and so we always talk the order of everything.
So now, does someone have to be in church to come to your coaching program?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There are several different, even different religions that people belong to have come to us as well. So it's definitely not one certain type of people that we're looking to minister to. But if you're getting married, there are some, as my husband has said, there are some basic principles that are just standard, such as communication. You have to have good communication.
That's key.
But one of the things too, out of all the people that we talk to, whether they're in church, whether they're believers, whether they belong to another denomination or another religion, when they come to us, you're getting a biblical foundation for whatever we share. So it's like you don't go to McDonald's and ask for a Whopper.
Right.
Right. Hopefully not.
So, well, even if you do, you're not gonna get it.
Right.
So you know where you're coming when you come here. So and I think that's key as well.
Yeah, and one of the things that I often reflect back on when we were going through, I asked God, I said, now God, why do I have to forgive this? And he said, well, I forgave you.
Wow, yeah.
And so when you get a response like that, it's like, wow, okay, touche.
So how long did that take for you? Of course, that's individual from person to person.
Yes.
But perhaps you were kind of primed a little bit because you were reading a certain book. And of course, I'm sure you, in your coaching program, have, encouraged others to, forgive, and maybe they have different time frames. But for you personally, how long did it take for you to really, let it go and forgive?
It was months.
I will say,
He probably knows better.
No. I honestly, I would say probably some months, close to a year or so, because I think one of the things that we find out about forgiveness is not so much just the words being said, but it's also in the actions. And I find that when someone has hurt you or wronged you, you know that you forgive them when you see them again, or the situation comes up again, and it doesn't bring forth an emotional response. There's nothing there that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up, and all of that. You're able to continue on. And I remember one time she had went out of town, and that was in the midst of all that. And when something else came up where she had to go out of town again, and she mentioned it for the last time I went out of town. And so that let me know that, that it's, she's not holding it against me, but it's still gnawing at her a little bit. Yeah. So, but today, to God be the glory, the truth of the matter is, if we never shared this story with you, you would have never known that we have gone through something like what we've been through.
Right.
And I found out I'm not concerned about how people look at us as being quote unquote the perfect couple. Oh, someone said to me, I want a marriage like yours. And I did, and I said to them, I says, time out. You might like year 1 and year 2, but year 5 and 6, I don't know if you want to do that,
And we do share a story
Yeah.
when we're actually coaching individuals, because when we get to the part that says for better and for worse, we want them to know there's going to be some worse. We've been through some worse.
I know you want more, but that's all for now. And until next time, be in health.